Welcome to Fear Street. They might knock on your door on a late winter night. You may see them approaching your car while you're waiting at the stoplight or a gas station. It might seem like they need help, or they may just stand still for no reason. These children don't look threatening. They want to get in your house or your car. They're persistent. Suddenly, you notice something's not right about them. Their eyes, pure black from lid to lid. Dead orbs send chills up your spine. The black-eyed children are paranormal creatures that resemble children between the age of 6 and 16. These creatures have pale skin and black eyes, and have reportedly been seen hitchhiking, panhandling, and at the doorsteps of residential homes. There have been dozens of sightings from all over the world, all following a similar pattern. Kids with eyes completely blacked out appear at people's home or vehicle, knock on the door, and then insist upon getting inside. Anyone who's encountered them has almost immediately felt an overwhelming sense of dread. Besides blacked out eyes, these children typically appear normal. Sometimes their attire seems outdated. No one knows for sure where these children come from or how long they've been here, but demonologists believe they're children of the devil himself, and that if you let them in, you're allowing the devil to enter your life. Upon being encountered, they claim to need to call their parents. However, when you make eye contact with them, you get the feeling they have a much more sinister motive in mind. Some people claim that these children have existed since the 80s. However, most sources say that the legend originated in 1996, in posts written by a Texas reporter named Brian Bethel, where he wrote about 2 alleged encounters with the black-eyed children. He said that he had encountered 2 children in Abilene, Texas, with pale skin and black eyes. In 2012, Bethel retold his story on the TV show Monsters and Mysteries in America. He then went on to write an article for the Abilene Reporter where he described his experience again. One of the stories goes like this. In a snowy town in the middle of nowhere in Vermont, an elderly couple heard the sound of 3 loud knocks on their door. They opened the door and saw 2 children, a boy and a girl. "Parents will be here soon," they said. "May we come in?" The children didn't make eye contact and just stood there in the doorway. The elderly couple was hesitant, but after a little while, they let the boy and girl inside. The kids settled on the couch while the wife went to make some hot cocoa. The husband asked them questions, but they all went unanswered. When the wife returned, she noticed that her cat seemed scared of the children. "May we please use the restroom?" they asked. That's when the wife really looked at the kids for the first time and saw them. Their eyes were as black as the midnight sky. She directed them to the bathroom and returned to her husband, who was covering his face with his hand. "Did you see their eyes?" The husband then showed her his hand, which was full of blood from a nosebleed. The power suddenly went out, and the house turned pitch black. The wife headed to the restroom, where she was confronted by the voice of the kids at the end of the hall, uttering, "Our parents are here." They then left the house, leaving the door wide open. The wife then noticed that there were 2 men at the end of the driveway. They were very tall and slender. She waved, but didn't receive the same friendly gesture. The 2 men and children then drove away together in one car. The power came back on a little after the kids left. Throughout the next week, weird things happened in the house. 3 out of 4 cats went missing, and the 4th was found dead in a pool of its own blood. The husband continued to have nosebleeds and finally went to the doctor, where he was diagnosed with a very aggressive skin cancer. This story even found its way to the UK, where in 2014, the Daily Star wrote 3 front-page stories about sightings of black-eyed children in the haunted pub in Staffordshire. Ghost hunters who believed that the black-eyed children were extraterrestrials, vampires, or ghosts took these alleged sightings very seriously. Nowadays, people are still claiming to see the black-eyed children all around the world while driving late at night down an empty road, or outside of their window at night, or even lurking in the shadows of their room. For instance, Many people have reported seeing the black-eyed children standing in the corner of their room during sleep paralysis, or even after waking up in the middle of the night because they sensed there was a presence watching them, and in the shadows were the black-eyed children. Here's another account of an encounter that took place in Tennessee. I've had 2 encounters with them. The first was 2 years ago or so, in a gas station parking lot off Highway 58 in Tennessee, at about 3 or 4 in the morning. A friend of mine had parked towards the far end of the lot around the side of the building. I was sitting in the passenger side of my friend's car, waiting for him to come out of the store from buying cigarettes. I was fairly relaxed, enjoying the radio, and suddenly I heard a knock on the window. I looked over and there was a boy. He looked to be about 12, and he was wearing a gray hoodie with his hood pulled up. I cracked the window and asked him what he wanted. "Can I borrow your phone?" I wasn't going to let some strange kid use my phone, so I told him I was sure they'd let him use the one inside the store. He kept insisting though, and it was the weirdest thing because the longer he stood there, the more unsettled and scared I started to feel. I had rolled up the window by this point, but he was becoming more and more insistent. That's when I saw his eyes. His hood had slipped back because of so much movement, and the only way I can describe the feeling of looking into those eyes is primal fear. Right at that moment, he quickly moved to a nearby tree line, and a few seconds later my friend got into the car. He said I was as pale as a ghost and asked me what was wrong. At the time I had no idea what the hell that was all about, and had trouble describing it all to him. He looked at me strangely and said that he hadn't seen a kid at all. That really got to me. So when I got home I couldn't sleep, and I wanted to find out exactly what I had encountered. So I searched and searched until I finally came upon the black-eyed kids. The second encounter took place in my home. It was about 3.5 weeks ago. I'm a night owl, so I'm usually up really late, and it was about 3:30 in the morning. I was watching YouTube videos. Then I heard a knock on the front door. Normally I never would have answered the door at such an ungodly hour, but my roommate's girlfriend had left only about 20 minutes prior, so I assumed it was her having forgotten something. It definitely wouldn't have been the first time. So I went to the door and cracked it a bit to look outside, and there were these 3 kids. One looked to be around 16 and was female. The other 2 were little boys who appeared about 6 and 10. They wouldn't look directly at me and held their heads at a downward angle. The porch light cast a pretty heavy shadow on their features, so what they were was obscured. I had forgotten about my previous encounter, but I didn't know anyone in the neighborhood yet, and I wouldn't just automatically assume it was black-eyed kids at my door. So I opened the door a bit more, and before I could ask what they were after, the girl said, "Can we come in to use your phone?" I told her I could go get it and let her use it, but again, she asked to come inside. It was as if I hadn't said anything at all, and her insistence grew, just like last time. She stepped from the front walk to the bottom step of my stoop and looked up at me. That's when I saw those black eyes again, so I slammed the door and ran back to my living room, a good distance away from the front door. I heard a few more knocks over the following few minutes. They kept growing more and more aggressive, but finally they stopped. I didn't dare get close to the door or the windows again until sunrise. I've since installed security cameras around the perimeter of my house, so if they come back, I'll have proof.